Welcome back from the break, back to the third segment of today's show. And as we've seen from round 1 and 2, we can tell that the contestants in today's quarterfinal debate are definitely taking it up a notch. And as the judges said before, we can see that there is a different quality of, speaking and debating that is here today. So me and the judges, we're very impressed with what we've seen, but now we're heading over into the third and final segment, which is probably the hardest one for the contestants. It is the judges round, and the judges will be asking questions to both teams based on what they've said and based on the topic itself. Now, can I just ask the judges, before we head into you guys actually asking questions, that you make sure that you do give an equal number of questions to both teams to make sure that it's fair. And so without further ado, I'm going to come to Mahmoud first. Can you please give your first question?
Yeah, so I think you guys touched upon this in the last round very briefly. It's a bit of a controversial question. I want you to think about it and give me a coherent answer. So could you think of the pillars you could use to quantify human life? Because there's a lot of research that goes into this in the NHS, and they actually do have some algorithms for it. So it's a very advanced question, but I want you to think of the pillars they could think about to quantify the value of a human life. Well, I just think about it, and whoever's ready to go first, you can go.
So, pillars to use to quantify human life. So the contestants have taken it up a notch, and as you can see, the judges are definitely taking their questions up a notch as well. A very difficult question from Mahmoud there. Both teams seem to be taking their time, but don't take too much time.
So basically, what factors would you take into consideration when quantifying the value of a human life?
Okay, so what factors would you take into consideration when deciding the value of a human life? So we can see a lot of discussion going on over here. Can I ask one team, please, to perhaps respond first? Okay, I'm going to put an end to this discussion. I'm going to come to arguably the best first. Can I ask one of you guys, please, to answer the question?
When it comes to human period of life, we don't think there's a real definition, but if we were to try and place one, we'd put it on the fact that a person is sentient and conscious, so they're able to make their own decisions and able to do that confidently with reasonable understanding and logic behind it. That's the same reason that we believe, if you look at the law, most laws apply for people over 18. The reason is that it's believed that people under that age are not fully sentient or they're conscious but not fully sentient in the sense that they can't come to reasonable or logical arguments and understandings. So we believe that there's no real test to see whether someone is, but it's based on sentience and consciousness.
Mahmoud, happy with that?
It's very good effort, yeah.
Okay, so well done, arguably the best. Well done, Jayshan. Now I'm going to ask Team Nexus, can you guys please answer the question? What factors would you take into consideration when deciding the value of human life?
Yeah, I agree with arguably the best. Yeah, it is consciousness and sentience. So that's why when we're talking about euthanasia, when we say regulations, the person has to be conscious enough to make that decision to end their life. And if a person, one of their concerns was that the person might be mentally affected and therefore not know what they're doing, in that case it would not happen because the regulations would control that.
I mean, you happy with that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so both teams have already had a question each. So now I'm going to come over to Swiber. Swiber, can you please give some questions to the teams?
Yep, I have a question specifically for arguably the best. You spoke a lot about how every minute counts and how we should all have the opportunity to achieve whatever it is that we want to achieve in our lives, and to cut that short through euthanasia would be wrong. But what about in cases with, say, the elderly who've lived a long life that they're happy with, achieved everything that they've set out to, but towards the end they're suffering from pain and whatever illnesses, and what would we do in that situation where they'd say, well, they're happy with what they've done, but they don't feel like they can go on because they are in so much pain.
Anush?
Yeah. So in terms of what you're saying, there's always measures of taking away pain in terms of through palliative care, as we previously mentioned, and you touched upon the elderly, and I was reading up yesterday that the fact that there was a 60-year-old by the name of Betty Columbius. She was 75, and her husband was diagnosed with heart disease, and seeing as this was supposedly terminal, she wanted to be euthanized, and she was completely healthy. What I would say is the fact that it will be abused and misused if euthanasia was legalized. People who are not, people who are actually healthy might take away their lives for personal reasons, and people who are elderly, they are very loved by their family members. So for them to cut their lives short, it'll affect a huge range of people, families, friends, and I believe that it should not be allowed. That's my case.
Okay, thank you very much, Anush. Swaiba?
That's good enough for me.
Okay. Judges, can I get another question from you guys, perhaps this time for Team Nexus? David, perhaps?
Yes. I was a little bit concerned about the argument for euthanasia on the grounds of resources. And so my question to you is, do you think that morally rather than economics or moral grounds, it's appropriate to offer euthanasia because you're saving money?
Obviously, when we are talking morally, we can't really put economics into it, but I think something that the other team is quite neglecting quite a lot is that the mental, psychological effects. The person is not just going through physical pain; they are going through mental pain. So morally, surely it would be better to cut this life that they're just in pain. That is all that is in their life. These last few days, they're just in pain, and to reach that stage where you want to die, surely we should just allow this. And morally, in loads of religious texts, it says to do no harm. Now, interpret it how you want. Do no harm may mean letting them live and making them suffer more, or cutting their pain through harmless means. The drug used in euthanasia is actually categorized underneath comfort care. So this just reiterates the fact that euthanasia is very harmless, and it actually puts people into comfort. They're put into a coma first, and then they slowly die in their sleep. And personally, I'd think that's the most peaceful way to die. That's how I'd want to die.
Okay, thank you very much, Masuma. Judges, can I get perhaps one more question for each team?
I have one for arguably the best again.
Okay, so
I'd like to push the point that, it's going to happen anyway. That by some means, people are, whether it's leaving the country to find a place where euthanasia is more accessible, they're doing it. So is it not a better idea to have a system in place that we can control and monitor in order to make sure that it's happening in the right situations?
That seems very similar to an argument for drugs. It's going to happen anyway, so let's just make it legal.
a very short and snappy response from Jayshan there.
The judge.
I mean, Swaiba has been an arguably the best case for this one.
Yeah, I guess I deserve it.
If I could ask a question of arguably the best, though, because we have encouraged the use of evidence and statistics, and it was mentioned by arguably the best that 1 in 6, the NHS is making 1 in 6 incorrect diagnoses or assessments. I can't remember what the exact phrase is. However, I hope that arguably the best can put that in context, because I personally think I would be horrified if that was 1 in 6 scenarios where it was a life or death situation. So can arguably the best come back and clarify whether they are talking about 1 in 6 incorrect life or death decisions?
It's a very good question. Indeed, a very good question. Just give me some time.
Oh, so David put them on the spot there. Perhaps while they're... Wait, Anush, do you have a response?
Okay. Well, you said life or death situations, okay? And just a fact, Stephen Hawking, when he was diagnosed with his motor neuron disease, he was told that there was 100% chance that he would die. And here he is, 50 years later, still alive and still contributing to the world of science. So you can't. So misdiagnoses happen all the time, and indeed it does happen between life and death situations.
Okay.
Can I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
There's a difference actually between diagnosis and prognosis. So in the case of Stephen Hawking, you're correct, he was diagnosed, but the prognosis was a guess. And I don't think they were actually saying necessarily that he had to die in 30 years. Okay, thank you.
In cases, the prognosis is a guess, is what we believe, because you can never ever be certainly sure of something.
Yes. True.
Okay. Just quickly before we move on to like the result, can I get one very very quick question for Team Nexus, because I felt like arguably the best. I had quite a few questions. So maybe one quick question for Team Nexus, and we can see if they can very quickly respond.
Oh, putting me on the spot here. I haven't got one off the top of my head.
I don't have a question for.
You don't have a question?
No, I just thought that question would be.
Okay, so the judges don't have a question for.
We're stumped. We're stumped.
for Team Nexus.
They've
So you guys
argued us into the ground.
You guys caught life there. Okay, now we're going to move on to the final part of the show, which is the actual results and deciding which team won today's debate, as well as deciding on who was the best speaker. So one out of the 6 contestants today is going to be chosen as the best speaker, and they don't necessarily have to be from the winning team. It's just the person who the judges believed spoke the best, and really put their points out there for the opposition team and for the judges to hear. The judges, before you choose the winning team, can I ask you guys to quickly discuss who you think the best speaker was for today, and that you can discuss together. Just in case you don't know, in the quarterfinals we've changed our system of deciding which team won the debate, rather than the judges having a discussion and deciding. What we've done now is the judges individually being given a piece of paper on which they ranked personally who they felt were the better team and which team won. There's no discussion going on between them about the winning team. They put all their decisions into a box. I'm going to put it out and I'm going to announce which team won. But before we do that, we have the judges here discussing who was the best speaker for today's show. I mean, we had a very, very good debate today. We can see definitely the quality of the speaking and the points and the debating has gone up from the preliminary rounds. You can definitely see that we are in the quarterfinals. Both teams are back in the semi-finals. So judges, have you guys come to a decision as to who the best speaker was?
Yes.
And can I ask who wants to announce it? David? Okay,
yes,
so David, would you like to go ahead and tell us who the best speaker was for today's show? And can I get a round of applause after he does?
Before I announce that, can I just say that there was a lot of good presentations and a lot of good argument and counter-arguments. But the consensus is down to the fact that there was a commitment in the talking presentation. We felt that was best done by Nasuma.
Okay, so congratulations to Nasuma. You have won today's best speaker award. Very well done to you. I'm sure all the judges were very, very impressed with your performance. But well done to everyone. I think everyone did very well today. Okay, judges, can I now ask you to, on your piece of paper, write down who you thought the winning team was, fold it up, put it into the box, and then I'll take the box, pass the box to me, I'll take it, and I'll announce which team won today. I mean, I really don't know which way the judges will go, because both teams were very, very good today. But ultimately it comes down to the judges' decision, and I think all of them have now made the decision. So now David is going to pass me the perspective box in which we have the judges' decision. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out one of these here. Hold that for me. Thank you very much, David. Okay, so the first vote goes to Team Nexus. Okay, so Team Nexus, you guys have one vote from one of the judges. Opening up the second piece of paper. The second vote goes to arguably the best. So we are 1-1 here, and we ultimately have to come down to the third judge to decide which team has won today's perspective quarterfinal and will be booking their place in the semi-finals. Okay, so the winner of today's debate, it was a very, very good debate, and can I just say before I announce this, a very big well done to all of you guys, because you all did really, really well. So the winning team today is team arguably the best. Well done, you guys have won today's debate show, and you guys have successfully booked your place in the semi-final of Perspective, the action-packed youth debate show. So well done to you guys. I'm sure you guys would agree, you guys who are watching today would agree that it was a very, very good debate that we had today. Very controversial topic, but I'm sure the judges were very, very impressed with what they saw. I was very impressed as well, but congratulations to arguably the best, commiserations to Team Nexus. You both did very well. But for arguably the best, this isn't the end of the road. You guys have successfully booked your place into the semi-finals of Perspective. So well done to you guys. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I have. I'm sure the judges have. And until our next quarterfinal, it's a goodbye from me.